Hey guys, it's me Ness, and I'm going to react to 18 weirdest WWE Royal Rumble entrants ever. These are one of those people that um, we weren't recognized that they would enter in the Royal Rumble. Regarding to the situation of who, where, or how did they enter the WWE match when, to be honest with you, it was one of those things that who is this person that we may not know, or there's some situations like, for example, commentators or other type of guests that they enter the Royal Rumble without knowing that whatever they're doing, and then at some point they either get eliminated as soon as possible. But these are one of those things that okay, some Royal Rumble I guess participants that they just entered the Rumble because for some reason, well, I guess because of the pop or how crowd was going to react to it. But regardless, we will get to see one of the 18 Royal Rumble entrants ever.
18 of the most random, unnecessary WWE Royal Rumble entrants ever, Santina Marella. And the surprise return of Santina Marella as Santina Marella received criticism at the 2020 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
The character wasn't as well liked as WWE remembered, and a lot of the criticism was directed to the fact that the spot could have gone to another woman on the roster. Granted, it was an odd fit in the match, especially with WWE being so far away from parody characters of this nature, but according to Marella himself during an interview with Back Sports page, he had reservations about bringing the character back. Talent Relations called me and asked if I was available. I said sure because of my past significant Royal Rumble moments. In the beginning, I wasn't too sure about coming back as Santina, but it was whatever they wanted, so I was going to do it to the best of my ability. 2 days before I actually got sick and I decided to tough it out just to get through the day, but it was a good moment overall. Marella would just last 1 minute in the Women's Rumble before opting for a self-elimination. Ricardo Rodriguez at the 2012 Royal Rumble was the definition of a lackluster Rumble match. The match lacked any concrete storytelling and almost every surprise entrant was underwhelming. One of the surprise entrants that WWE believed were pop fans was Ricardo Rodriguez. Rodriguez was of course a personal in-ring announcer for former WWE champion Alberto Del Rio, and WWE's grand idea was to have him dressed as Del Rio and enter the match via the use of Del Rio's luxury car. But this surprise entrant was a complete waste of time, and the spot had grown stale after a few seconds. The spot was no doubt designed to make Vince McMahon laugh, and we all know that the former WWE chairman has questionable comedic tastes. Rodriguez would last just over 2 minutes before being eliminated by Santina Marella. Michael Cole. Speaking of the 2012 Royal Rumble, one of the other surprise entrants was Michael Cole. Cole had dominated airtime the year prior, and Cole had even received a WrestleMania match against Jerry the King Lawler. And nobody was crying out for Cole to make a cameo in the match, and the WWE had moved away from Cole being an on-air character during this time. So it just felt like a major step backward.
In the worst
Cole would
WrestleMania.
enter in his infamous orange singlet, and he would have an exchange with Karma before being eliminated by fellow commentators Jerry Lawler and Booker T. Vicky Guerrero. The inaugural Women's Royal Rumble would take place in 2018, and WWE did a great job in honoring the women of the past with numerous surprise entrants. One of the more polarizing entrants was Vicky Guerrero, who would enter the match screaming
Of course.
over and over again. Whilst
got
Guerrero
eliminated.
received a great reaction, Guerrero wasn't a wrestler, and she obviously wasn't going to take any big bumps. The spot could have been given to another wrestler on the roster or even another legend, but the WWE clearly wanted to honor the former general manager, Jonathan Coachman. During the Ruthless Aggression era, WWE were just obsessed with having Jonathan Coachman as an on-air heel. Coachman initially started
He
in
did a good job
WWE
as
as a
a heel,
backstage
to be
interviewer and
honest.
commentator, yet in 2003, Vince McMahon decided that Coachman would be a solid presence as an on-screen heel. Although WWE had an insanely gifted roster in
just that,
2005,
he's
they
not-
decided to give one of the spots in the
he's
Royal
not
Rumble
really
to
a
Coachman.
wrestler, that's the thing.
It's unclear what the aim of this was, but it's possible that one of the aims was to influence fans into accepting him as a credible threat. Coachman, who wasn't even an actual wrestler, lasted 14 minutes in the match, which made everyone else look like complete fools. He would eventually be eliminated by the Nature Boy Ric Flair, but booking him to last that long was just nonsensical. To make things worse, the following year, WWE would yet again give Coachman a spot in the matchup. Thankfully, this time he would last just 30 seconds before he was unceremoniously dumped out of the match by the Big Show. Ernest Miller. Ernest Miller is mostly known for his run in WCW, yet his WWE run saw him have a number of matches, and he even made a bizarre comedic appearance in the acclaimed 2004 Royal Rumble. Miller entered at number 18 along with his manager Lamont, and he entered the ring to Chris Benoit and Randy
Wait,
Orton both being down. And instead of taking advantage of the situation, Miller and Lamont decided to dance to Somebody Call My Mama.
what?
Benoit and Orton would then recover and proceed to gate crash the dance break, eliminating Miller in the process. Whilst this was a silly and random entrant, the 2004 had a serious tone throughout, as there were numerous intense storylines at play, therefore it made sense to break up the action with a few minutes of comedic antics.
I guess.
Fake Diesel. At WWE was so insistent on Fake Diesel being a huge
fake.
deal that they allowed the character
Yeah.
to not just be an entrant in the
Fake
1997
Diesel,
Royal Rumble,
fake
but also
Razor
last
Ramon.
until the Final
Of
Four.
course.
Even the most casual of WWE fans knew that this wasn't the real Diesel, yet WWE just treated the audience like idiots for months
Yeah.
on end. We also won't forget mentioning the fake Razor Ramon which
Of
entered the match.
course.
As everybody knows by
And,
now, Scott Hall never entered the Royal Rumble, but Razor Ramon did. Chavo
my
Guerrero.
goodness.
Now, of course, before you call us out on this one, Chavo Guerrero isn't a bizarre wrestler as such entering the Royal Rumble. But when the WWE relaunched the ECW brand, they decided to present and market the ECW title as a world title. When The Undertaker won the 2007 Rumble, one of the options for him at WrestleMania 23 was Bobby Lashley, who was the
Yeah.
reigning ECW World Champion. Over time, as WWE gradually lost interest in the ECW product, the
And he
labeling of the
entered the
ECW
Rumble.
World title began to fade away, and one specific entrant in the 2008 Rumble from Madison Square Garden made it obvious that the ECW title was no longer a world title in WWE. Entrant number 26 in the
Yeah.
Rumble was Chavo Guerrero, and Guerrero at the time was the reigning ECW champion. It was labeled that Guerrero would have a chance to challenge for the world title if he won the Rumble, and this officially meant that the ECW world title was no longer considered to be a world title in the company.
Basically, like Vince tried to bury the ECW brand, especially the title. Again, like it's when he bought WCW, he buried the company. You know, most of the roster and everything that it stand for. Because at that point, yes, WWE takes over, and then when they got ECW, that's another thing that happened. Ah, man. It's like one of those you have too much pride and ego thinking that you have the best company, but at that point you'd really have to give some punishment to the ones that you competed, despite that, you know, they have no more power at that point to take over or to put your company down, which is very, very sad.
For the loyal fans of ECW, this was a disappointing way to find out that the ECW title was no longer a world title.
Yeah.
However, the writing was on the wall a considerable amount of time before the annual matchup. Charlotte Flair. Now again, not exactly a strange entrant, but the active reigning world champion entering the Royal Rumble isn't a new concept, and it was done extremely well when Brock Lesnar did it in 2020. When Lesnar entered the match as WWE champion, it was a welcome yet bold addition to the matchup, and it helped set up his eventual WrestleMania 36 matchup against Drew McIntyre. When it came to the Women's Rumble in 2022, WWE decided to have Charlotte Flair in the match as the reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. Flair's promo explaining her involvement in the match was insanely weak, and it was obvious that WWE just wanted her on the show in some capacity. Whilst Lesnar's involvement in 2020 managed to elevate the names in the match, as well as the quality of the match itself, the same can't be said for Flair, as her appearance lacked any weight and fans don't even remember her entering the match as an active champion, which is never a
Yeah.
good sign.
Yep.
Flair would last over 30 minutes in the match before being eliminated by the winner and Flair's subsequent WrestleMania opponent, Ronda Rousey. Carlos Colon.
The thing is about that, I think that she might be the last person who's champion to enter the Rumble, despite that she is the champion. But hopefully they don't do this again. By the timing of this video, hopefully they won't do this ever again. Because at that point, it seems pointless. Because the purpose of the Royal Rumble, whoever wins gets a shot at either of the champion, the world champion or main champion, to WrestleMania. You know, it's not about letting a champion face up in the Rumble, and what if they won? So that means they're going to face the other champion and then unify the champions, because that's kind of bit like, you know, it wouldn't make any sense. And the thing is about the Rumble is to build people who deserves to win that year so that they can main event one day at WrestleMania. And hopefully, again, like I said, they don't have to do this ever again. But if they do it again in the future, make some sense to it and we will understood. But if not, that's how it is.
Back to getting the weird again. Now, Carlos Colon, father of Primo and Carlito, was a legendary wrestler from Puerto Rico and made a brief appearance in the 1993 Royal Rumble. Entering at number 24, Colon was already well known as a major figure in Puerto Rican wrestling and the founder of the World Wrestling Council. Despite being 44 at the time, Gorilla Monsoon mistakenly mentioned him as a fiery youngster. Yeah, right? Regardless, Colon was eliminated after a few minutes, but his inclusion in the Rumble added a touch of international flair and showcased WWE's acknowledgement of stars from outside its usual roster. It was, after all, the first time they did it. Shane McMahon. The 2022 Men's Royal Rumble was a total disaster by all accounts. One of the fundamental flaws of the match was that the WWE failed to present names in a manner fans wanted, and they instead shifted the focus onto surprise entrants like Shane McMahon. Whilst McMahon was a nice addition to the match, he was literally presented as the biggest star in the entire match, which was a spit in the face to all the active talent and wasn't a great look for the modern day roster. McMahon's involvement was unique mainly because WWE literally went the extra mile in their booking of him, and it later surfaced that the former European champion had a significant say in his elite presentation in the matchup. It was reported by several outlets that McMahon was actively pushing to be the center of attention, and one pitch from McMahon was that he would enter the match at the number 1 position. Why WWE higher-ups went along with this is a big question fans had, as McMahon wasn't an active full-time wrestler and he had no business being the star of the matchup. McMahon's unprofessional behavior and booking didn't just upset the fans, as it infuriated major players in the match such as Brock Lesnar, and getting on the wrong side of Lesnar is never a good idea. Lesnar was picked as the eventual winner of the match, yet all anyone could focus on was McMahon's superior booking and the dire quality of the match. Even Vince McMahon had enough of the boy wonders antics, and in a surprising move, he decided to outright fire his own son for his behavior. Doug Gilbert.
That's just one of those things. It's like you're basically doesn't want to let other wrestlers at that point trying to let them have their own spotlight or shine. You already had your time, and I don't think it's really that necessary to, take away someone's spotlight because you already done a lot of things in the past. It's time to at least, help the ones who can make their own, um, journey to one day become the center of attraction, or you could say next future star or superstar like that. It's just that Shane doesn't realize that he thinks that it wasn't enough for him to at least move on from his glory days, because to be honest, it's like, it's one of those things that it could be selfish, because again, if you make other people mad because of your booking decisions based on yourself more than other people, that it is important. That goes to show that you may classify yourself as a selfish individual that doesn't want to gives others a opportunity or chance. You already had your moment, man. It's time for you to at least understand that your time has come. You just have to move on. That's all that matters.
Now, 1996's WWE roster wasn't exactly a high point in the company's career. Whilst there was top talent in the likes of Bret Hart, Undertaker and Razor Ramon, they were reserved for singles matches on the card, which did leave many desirable wrestlers for the Royal Rumble match. Outside of Shawn Michaels, Yokozuna, Diesel, Vader and the British Bulldog, there really weren't many to pick as a winner to go on to WrestleMania and challenge Bret Hart for the championship. I mean, could you really see Aldo Montoya going for the gold? So in order to pad it out, Vince looked towards Memphis's USWA territory and handpicked a legend. Well, more like a brother of a legend with Doug Gilbert, brother of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. Gilbert came out to zero fanfare and would have a poor performance, only lasting 3 minutes before being dumped out by Vader. Dory Funk Jr. I remember when WWE made fun of WCW for using old has-beens of the past in the Billionaire Ted skits. Well, WWE should have practiced what they preached, as the 1996 Rumble had another odd entrant in Dory Funk Jr., who was fresh and fit at the age of 54 years old. Now, all credit to Dory Funk Jr., he still had a decent showing lasting 10 minutes, and between that having a short scuffle with veteran Bob Backlund before being dumped out by Savio Vega. Quite a return to the company after 10 years. The SWAT team. Good grief, looking back on the 1996 Rumble really had some oddballs, and to continue that streak were numbers 15 and 16 respectively, a SWAT team member A and B. Yep, creative really seemed lazy on that one. But this was a pairing of Victor and Manuel Santiago, who had wrestled in Japan, Mexico, and the US as a dominant pairing. The trouble is that many, like a handful of the WWE Royal Rumble entrants of that year, the audience at the time had no idea who they were, and simply served as cannon fodder to both Vader and Yokozuna, who managed to eliminate the tag team in less than 2 minutes. Dick Murdoch. Oh boy, if you thought 1996's Royal Rumble roster was bad, it was nothing on the year before that. Quang, Mantar, Duke Drosy, and Adam Bomb. This should have been a Rumble labeled as a lower mid-card Rumble. WWE dug deep into the barrel of randomness to bring in known racist and KKK member Dick Murdoch. After 10 years of being away from WWE, Murdoch returned at number 27 to a fairly decent reaction and just managed to last 5 minutes. Tom Brandi. The 1998's Royal Rumble was memorable for several reasons. Stone Cold Steve Austin had now joined Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan as a back-to-back winner. The Rock put in an incredible Iron Man-like performance, Terry Funk brought out a chainsaw, and Mick Foley managed to enter the Rumble 3 times under 3 different personas. However, with all that, let's never forget the fighting spirit of the real Italian Tom Brandi, formerly Salvatore Sincere, who was in it to win it, but sadly only lasted 12 seconds, making his only Rumble appearance a lackluster one. AAA wrestlers. WWE was really trying to recover from its mid-90s slump, and while they had a true star in the making of Stone Cold Steve Austin, they still needed to pad out the Rumble. Thus, Vince McMahon had the idea of bringing in a slew of AAA wrestlers with which they had a short partnership with at the time. As well as a 6-man tag featuring the Latin stars, a WWE inserted Piroth, Cybernetico, Latin Lover, and Lucha legend Mil Mascares. Whilst the others understood the format of the Royal Rumble, Mascares wasn't a fan of losing any matches, including the Rumble itself. Bruce Pritchard recalled how he was a polite gentleman backstage, but wasn't in favor of jobbing to anybody, thus he eliminated himself. And Hiroki Sumi. Whilst the greatest Royal Rumble isn't normally considered to be part of the Royal Rumble's history, how could we not do this list without the mention of Hiroki Sumi? The former sumo wrestler made his one and only time appearance in the biggest Royal Rumble to date, entering at number 7. And despite his size and power, Hiroki only lasted 46 seconds after being eliminated by Mark Henry. Now, the Saudi Sports Authority did request Yokozuna for the match, but under the circumstances, we believe that this was the best that WWE could have done as a replacement. But there you have it, folks. We believe that the Saudi Sports Authority did request Yokozuna for the match, but under the circumstances,
Yokozuna. People don't realize Yokozuna had passed away, right? How in the hell did they not know? And why did they make the decision to have 50 men when there are other wrestlers cannot go to Saudi because of other reasons, right? And at the same time, like, why? Just why did you think that a wrestler at one point is like what? Yokozuna, when you don't know he already passed away a few years ago? Look, rest in peace to Yoko, but man, I just don't understand why Saudi, makes this type of decisions when you could at least know everything about the product before make a decision on something. Because again, you gather information, which is the first priority, before you claim your, answer statement. Man. Well, all I can say is that this is the video, guys, but all I can say that in this video, it's one of those things that, yes, odd type of entrance, or knowing that there are some wrestlers that we may not know. Some were like, okay, they added them for whatever reason, maybe they lacked the roster. And I hope that they never gonna do this ever again when it comes to Royal Rumble, especially for 40 or 50 men Royal Rumble, because it's like the 30 men is already enough. All right, since they have this NXT and other wrestlers who are active, you can utilize them at some point. You can't just find other people that people want them despite that they don't know that the person is already passed away. Or you could at least decide that if you're going to find somebody, if, for example, your roster is lack of everything, you can contact any returnees or former or I could say like legends, where yes, you can have them if you have a lot of people who get injured. But I hope that in this Royal Rumble and moving forward for years to come, I hope all of this will not gonna do this type of things ever again, because again, Royal Rumbles, I get it. You need to have some type of comedic or type of something that you will enjoy during the match. But this is a match that you have to at least understood that this is for a championship match where it's guaranteed. You can have some fun, but it has to be the roster that is active in the company, not somewhere outside. Or you could have legends. Again, like I said, have legends if you feel like you lack the roster. All I can say is that give it a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notification, and we will see each other in the next video. So thank you for watching. So peace.